Hello and welcome. My name is Christina from Empowered Creator. I am a mindset and conscious manifesting teacher and coach, and this is my YouTube channel. Here I talk about all things law of assumption, mindset, conscious manifesting, the quantum universe, and a lot more. And my goal is to simplify everything without the fluff. So if you guys like this content and you would like to see more of it, I would love it if you would subscribe to this channel, comment on this video, like it, share it, and stick around. Also, if you need help with your specific situation, I offer one-on-one coaching, email coaching, small group coaching, as well as custom subliminals for whatever needs you may have. I also have a mini course, Telepathically Connect with Your Specific Person. So if you're interested in any of these services, the links are below in the description box. Click on them and they're going to take you to my website. With all that being said, let's dive into today's video. In today's video, I want to discuss the 6 most common mistakes and misconceptions when it comes to manifesting. What are the most common mistakes people make when manifesting their desires? And this is from what I've observed in the comments here in my videos, in my coaching clients, and at times even in myself. So I wanted to share this knowledge and this experience with you guys today. So this is what I'll be discussing in today's video. Stay tuned. So let's jump straight in. Most common mistake number 1 when manifesting. Looking at the 3D. This one is very obvious, it's almost self-explanatory. You do your inner practice, you bring yourself to your state of the wish fulfilled, you revisit that state, you're doing well, you're doing great, and then you go to the 3D and check if there's been any progress. It's completely understandable, it's completely normal that you want to see results. However, I would recommend that you leave the 3D alone. And the reason I'm telling you to leave the 3D alone is because you don't know when the change might happen in the 3D. Remember, we've said in other videos that the 3D is the last thing to change. So expecting it instead to be the first thing that changes is a big mistake that can sometimes set you back, can sometimes disappoint you, can sometimes cause you to spiral. And at the end of the day, when you're in a good state, when you're dwelling in your wish fulfilled, why would you want to do that to yourself? So what I want to tell you guys here is to learn to trust the process, learn to trust the change in your inner state as your evidence and your movement, and learn to trust that once you have that movement, once you have that inner shift, once that becomes dominant within you, the 3D has no choice but to actually change to reflect that new state. There is no need for you to keep checking the 3D, at least not all the time, not on a consistent basis. Maybe you can do it occasionally here and there, but for the most part, you want to be dwelling in your imagination. And actually leave the 3D alone to conform in its own ways. Don't try to control it, don't try to micromanage it. Most common mistake number 2 when manifesting, believing your opposing thoughts. You guys need to realize that you are not your thoughts. You need to realize that you are above and beyond your thoughts. You need to realize that you have the freedom and the choice to actually choose your thoughts. Yes, you may not have absolute control over what thoughts pop into your head, but you have absolute control on your attitude towards these thoughts. And you have absolute freedom and control over whether you choose to identify with these thoughts and believe those thoughts and become those thoughts. Because a big mistake a lot of people manifesting their desires make is that when they get opposing thoughts, they start believing them. They start identifying with them, engaging with them, and even becoming those thoughts. So they put themselves in that state. And when you put yourself in that state, and that is your dominant state, the 3D is going to reflect that, which is not what you want. So realize that thoughts are just thoughts. Realize that you are going to get opposing thoughts from time to time. It's okay, it's very normal. But also realize that you are not your thoughts, that you have the freedom not to believe those thoughts and not to identify with them. And you have the freedom and the choice to actually reject the thoughts that don't serve you and choose to replace them with the thoughts that actually serve you and actually align with your new story that you're creating. Most common mistake number 3 when manifesting is not staying consistent to your new story. You have a desire, you identify what the new story that you want to create is, you start imagining that new story, but then you keep going back and forth between that new story and between the old story and the old circumstances. Now, don't get me wrong, the old story and the old circumstances will pop up in your head from time to time, maybe even a lot, and that is okay. Again, that is normal because that is what you know in your 3D. However, because you are wanting to create a new reality, you are wanting to create a new story and overcome that old story and write over it, your job is to be very, very, very consistent, at least in the beginning, until the new story starts taking some hold within you and you start feeling more and more convinced and more natural about it. Until that time, you need to be very, very consistent in practicing in imagination that new story that you have chosen for yourself. You need to learn to remain consistent, even if the 3D is showing no change, even if the 3D might occasionally show you things that you don't like. You still need to persist in your new story and stay consistent. You can't be in your new story one day, then back to your old story the next day, then back to the new story, back to the old story, and so on and so forth. Because usually what that happens is, because the old story is already established, the old story is already your 3D and your past, chances are you're going to stay stuck in that story. So you do need to put in some inner work to overcome that old story, to write over it with a new story. And for that, you need consistency and persistence. Most common mistake number 4 when manifesting is thinking or believing that you constantly have to be high vibe in order for your desire to manifest. This is a myth that is perpetuated, unfortunately, by a lot of law of attraction coaches, that you need to constantly be happy, you need to constantly be in a good mood, you need to constantly be high vibe, you need to constantly be in alignment with your desire, otherwise your desire is not going to come to you and it's not going to manifest. Well, let me tell you guys, this is a myth. First of all, we're all human. These coaches who are teaching you these things are also human, and they too have off days. They too have crap manifesting in their life from time to time that they need to take care of. They do have days where they're in a low mood. They're not constantly happy. They're not constantly high vibe. They're not constantly in an amazing mood. No human is able to be in that kind of mood 24/7, day after day. And the good news is that you don't need to be in such a high vibe in order to manifest your desires. What you do need is a consistent assumption that your desire is going to come true, that things are working out for you, that your desire is yours and it is done, regardless of what your mood is on this day or on that day. Keep the assumption, stay consistent in the assumption, stay persistent in the assumption, and you are going to see your manifestation regardless of your mood swings and changes and fluctuations here and there. So don't worry at all about being high vibe all the time. Your desire is going to manifest from your assumption. Most common mistake number 5 when manifesting is taking things as final. This is a very common mistake a lot of people make. Maybe you have worked on your new state and your new reality for a while, and then boom, the 3D comes and shows you something that you don't like. It shows you something that opposes what you want. Maybe you hear something that you don't like, you find out something that you don't like, and all of a sudden you start spiraling. You start thinking that what you've been doing is not working. You start wondering what's wrong with you or if you're doing something wrong. And you take these, let's call them mini failures, as final. Well, you guys, I've got news for you. Nothing is ever final until and unless you decide that it's final and you assume that it's final. If you don't take it as final, then it's never final. It's only final when you reach your goal and when you reach your manifestation. Until then, you can keep going, you can keep persisting, you can keep being consistent, and things are going to turn around soon enough. None of these mini failures is final. None of these mini failures means anything in the long run, especially after you have received your manifestation. All that they mean is that your current state might still need some adjustment, or maybe that the 3D hasn't caught up yet. So all you need to do is keep persisting and keep being consistent. But nothing is final. No opposite result is final. Nothing that the 3D shows that you don't like is final. So please, even if you've been working on your desire for a while and you see something that you don't like, do yourself a favor. Don't take it as final. Just tell yourself it's a little hiccup. Just tell yourself it's still the old story playing out, and keep going. Most common mistake number 6 when manifesting, this is also a big one. This is also a common one. People thinking that what manifests is the techniques and not your actual state. I get it so often in the comments here on YouTube, in my coaching clients, where they ask me, what should I do? What is the best method? What should I be doing? What more should I do? How many times a day? Are my affirmations good enough? Are my affirmations suitable for what I want? Can you give me the best affirmations for my desire, for me to make sure that I manifest my desire? If I script it this way over that way, which one is best? If I script it like that, is it still okay? Will it still manifest? Well, you guys, you need to chill. What manifests is not your techniques. What manifests is not whether you say the affirmation that way versus that way. What manifests is not whether you script your affirmation that way versus that way. What manifests is your state. So you're using all these techniques, and I've said that over and over again, that you need to pick the techniques that come most natural to you. Pick the techniques that feel best for you. Pick the techniques that come most natural to you, and make sure that you get into your state of the wish fulfilled, because this is the one and only purpose of these techniques. It doesn't matter if you say your affirmation that way or that way. Say it the way it feels best for you. As long as saying that affirmation puts you in the state of the wish fulfilled, makes you feel like the person who has their desire right now, then you're doing it right. Because like I said, it's not the technique that manifests, it's your state. You are doing the techniques to help yourself change your inner state and your inner perceptions and how you feel about your situation and about your desire. So feel free to pick whatever techniques you want. Feel free to pick whatever feels best for you. Don't force yourself to do that or that technique because one coach said this, the other coach said that. It doesn't matter. All techniques work if they resonate with you. Keep in mind that what manifests and what your goal is in order to manifest your desire is to shift your state to a state that is aligned with the person who now has their desire. So no more focusing on the techniques. Focus on whether the techniques that you're doing are putting you in the right state most of the time. So I hope this has been a helpful overview of the most common mistakes people make when manifesting and the most common misconceptions people hold when manifesting and about manifesting. And I hope that you guys now have a clearer idea of what these are and how to avoid them and what to do instead. With all that being said, I'm going to wrap up this video here. I intend that this has helped. As always, I very much appreciate you guys being on this channel, watching this content. I love making this content for you. And as always, I look forward to seeing you all at the next video. Until then, take care and bye-bye.